Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my road to top 10k journey on FPL. Now, this is my first game week 1 draft I've got for you today. Last season was a rough one for me, started slow, got wrecked by variance mid-season, but I did have a really good end of the season, so there was some positive to take from it. This season though, there's no excuses, we're pushing big for a top 10k finish, and I hope you join me on this journey. So I've gone for a 3-5-2 formation. Yes, it's very template, but it's template for a reason, as it offers a lot of flexibility over the first few game weeks. I feel 3 defenders is probably the best way to go, just due to the lack of options due to the opening fixtures. There's good defenders that were very good for us last season, but their fixtures, they just aren't looking good for the start of the season. We'll discuss this further on in the video though. Midfielders will be very generously priced this season. As such, this is your prime real estate, so 5 midfielders are just a non-negotiable. There's so many options going forward, and we'll discuss this further on in the video. 2 forwards just seems to fit very naturally this season, not necessarily due to a lack of options, but due to a lack of data. There's a lot of unknowns that we just need to wait for pre-season. Haaland is obviously a lock, and then that second striker spot is up for grabs. This draft has pretty much all the price points covered, which will make it so much easier to jump on players who reach some form in the early season, and hopefully we can catch some of the bandwagons early, which unfortunately that hindered me last season. We'll discuss what I mean by price points in more detail during the video. As you can see on screen, this draft has 1 million left in the bank. Now that's because the bench is very cheap. I've got 4 million goalkeeper, 2 4 million defenders and 4.5 million forward. Now I'll discuss later on in the video as to why that is. So as you can see, I've got Pickford starting goal along with Trent, Luke Shaw and Estepinian. Starting with the goalkeeper Pickford, he's really just a placeholder at the minute. He's kind of the best out of a bad 4.5 million bunch. He has a long run of good, decent fixtures, but Everton didn't really impress last season, and to be honest, I don't like the thought of starting my season with a Mackham in the team. But Sean Dyche, he is a good defensive manager, he could work wonders, so we'll wait to see for pre-season data what will happen there. Flecken would be my ideal goalkeeper, but that all hinges on if David Raya leaves Brentford. Price at 4.5 million with good fixtures and a solid defence, you can't really go wrong. Ramsdale for 5 million is in isolation the best keeper to go for the start of the season. However, with the Gunners having such good opening fixtures and attacking sense, I feel being aggressive and loading up on their attackers is a better move for how I want to play this season. Now Leno is a one to watch. After last season, he really did impress, and unfortunately he's got Arsenal and Man City away in game weeks 3 and 4. It might not just be the right time for him, but definitely one to keep your eye on your first wildcard. Okay, so let's talk about Trent. This guy's either going to be lights out, hauling every game week, or he's going to be a 2-point merchant. I don't think there's much in between when it comes to Trent. The fixtures aren't great for the first 4 game weeks, however Bournemouth at home is nice, and Trent will most likely be playing in that inverted fullback / midfield role. Now, he's not a fullback by any stretch of the imagination. He's a natural born midfielder and probably one of the best we'll have in the league. Now, if Liverpool hit form early, Trent will make a mockery of that 8 million price tag. It's just too risky to start the season without him. Plus, if he doesn't do particularly well, he is the most expensive defender you can buy in FPL at the moment. So just downgrading him to even Trippier, who is at 6.5 million, who is the next most expensive defender, you're then going to leave yourself an extra 1.5 million to spend throughout the rest of your team. Luke Shaw for his price is also a really good pick. Now, I was expecting it to be 6 million to start the season, so having him at 5.5 million with decent opening fixtures, you've got 2 nice home fixtures within the first 3, Wolves at home and Nottingham Forest at home. I believe they're 2 clean sheets, and Luke Shaw, he's also got a few attacking returns in him as well. You know, he's on some corners, some set pieces. Yet to see how Mason Mount's going to fit into that, but again, just a really nice 5.5 million option. And then you've got Purvis Estepinian. Now, this guy towards the end of last season was lights out, and the fact that he's got Luton at home for his first fixture of this new season, I don't know how you can go without him. And to put the cherry on top, he's only 5 million. Now, I don't know how he's only priced at 5 million. That just seems like an absolute joke from FPL Towers. He should have at least been 5.5. So, absolutely essential pick. If you're not starting your season with Purvis Estepinian, I think you're just setting yourself up for failure, to be perfectly honest. He's extremely attacking, 100% nailed, and plays for a solid defence. An absolutely essential pick. So I put some alternatives up on the screen there. Now, obviously the ones that stand out are the Newcastle boys. Now, as a Geordie, it pains me that I can't start the season with any Newcastle United defenders. Absolutely fantastic last season, great value, but having City away and Liverpool at home in the first 3 game weeks, there's probably not going to be a clean sheet there. Now, it's great from a footballing perspective. I'm glad we're getting them out the way early in the season when we're going to be red hot. Eddie Howe's going to have loads of new tactics. It's going to be brilliant, but from a fantasy football point of view, there's just not going to be many points there for the defence, unfortunately. I think Spurs defence is one that's been overlooked. Now, the first 2 fixtures aren't great, Brentford away and Man United at home, but after that, they have some quite decent fixtures. Now, Pedro Porro, if he starts, could be absolute bargain. 5 million. He ended last season with, I believe, a goal and an assist. You know, an absolute attacking machine. So definitely want to keep your eye on for further on in the season. Chelsea defence is something you shouldn't be overlooking either. Now, for game weeks 3 onwards, you really want to be looking at getting a Chelsea defender. Either that's going to be Ben Chilwell or Reece James. Pick your poison. You know, they both have the pros, they both have the cons. But start the season, could be alright. Liverpool at home, might not be a clean sheet, might get an attack in return. You know, just have to roll the dice. But like I say, after game week 3 to about game week 9, their fixtures are just an absolute joke. They have so many easy games. So you don't start the season with a Chelsea fullback. You want to have a plan of how to get them in for that Luton at home game. There could be some nice value in the Aston Villa fullbacks as well. Now, this is just going to depend on who is actually nailed in that position, because they do have a selection of attacking wing backs. Now, Matty Cash, 4.5 million, could be excellent value if he's nailed. You remember Matty Cash from a few seasons ago, he was just, again, an attacking machine. And the fixture to start the season, they're okay. You know, the only problem is they've got 1 home game and 3 away games, so want to keep an eye on. And also Alex Moreno, he does look as though he's injured according to FPLplanner.com, so you might want to have a look at that pre-season and how that works out. Now, Gabriel as well from Arsenal, he's a fantastic 5 million pick. He's well underpriced. He should be at least 6 million in my opinion. Now, again, a really good defender. It just depends on how you want to distribute your Arsenal assets. Now, personally, I'm going for 3 attackers, which you'll see later on in the video. But if you want to start off with a defender, either Ramsdale or Gabriel, they're absolutely fantastic picks. Manchester City defence could be a difficult one this season. Now, I've got Nathan Ake up on the screen, but it could easily be Manuel Akanji. The only problem is there's going to be Pep Roulette this season more than ever. They have so many quality centre-backs at that club. It's just trying to choose the right ones. Now, for 5 million, it could be an alright pick, but you've got to understand that they've got Gvardiol coming in, who they're looking to sign, and they've also got a competition through, I think, at the end of game week 1 through to game week 2, that they have to fly off to Greece to play. So there's going to be a lot of rotation in the Man City side early on in the season, and I just don't think it's worth the risk when there's so many other good options. I'm also not too sure what to expect from Manchester City this season. It seems, if you read in the football news, that their team's undergoing some major heart surgery. There's players leaving left, right and centre. They're bringing in new ones, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect their historically brilliant defensive record. It would be nice if we can get 50 likes on this video. Now, I'm a brand new channel. This is my first video, so if you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me. You can also help me out by dropping a comment down below as well. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Discuss my picks. Discuss who you think could possibly be a better pick, and I'll respond to as many of you as I can. I'll be active down there. Be sure to also join our mini league. The code's on the screen now. If you can reach 1,000 subs by the end of game week 38, I promise there'll be some tasty prizes for the top 3. So in my midfield, I've got Saka, Martinelli, Rashford, Mitoma, and then Ciso. I went for a kind of a 60-40 template picks. 3 of them are very much template, and 2 of them not so much. Guys, don't be afraid to go template for the first few game weeks. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You just want to be keeping up with the pack for the first few game weeks. Then when we've got a lot more data, you can see which players are hitting form. Attack those players, which will help boost you up the ranks. As we mentioned earlier, I've got most of the price points covered: 9 million, 8.5, 8, and 6.5 million, and also a lower one. Pair this with the budget in the bank and you've got a very flexible system that will allow you to make transfers without having to gut the spine of your team. This is something to consider when building your own draft. Example, how easily could you move an 8 million midfielder up to Son if he hits some good form? How easy would you be able to move a 6.5 midfielder up to Raheem Sterling when he has that Luton at home game in game week 3? Arsenal midfielders are just so underpriced this season, you'd be foolish not to take advantage of it. Now, last season, I got burned by not having Martinelli early enough. When he's on form, he's their main goal threat. The bloke is electric. Saka, he needs no introduction. He should be the second name on all of your drafts. A player that could easily make an absolute mockery of his price tag this season. The fixtures for Arsenal are just so good, you can't ignore their attackers. They've got 3 home fixtures within the first 4 games. Nottingham Forest at home, Crystal Palace away, Fulham at home, and Man United at home. Now, when Arsenal are at home, they bang in goals for fun. I'm expecting minimum 3 to 4 goals in each game. With the attack and threat of Arsenal, combine that with the fixtures, I want to make sure that I have the maximum chance of getting as many attacking returns and taking advantage of their easy opening fixtures. Rashford is another must-have for the start of the season. He's got good fixtures and is also the main goal threat for Man United. I'd have him over Fernandes, even if he is a little bit cheaper. The beauty about Marcus Rashford being 9 million is if he doesn't hit the form that we seen last season, we can quite easily move him on to another midfielder. You can either do a direct swap to Son, who's the same price, or you can quite easily downgrade him. Finally, it's a Brighton boys. Now, I've tripled up on Brighton this season. 2 midfielders and obviously Estepinian in defence, purely because of the opening fixture against Luton. Now I think this one could be an absolute bloodbath and I want to get in on those Brighton goals. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a 6-0 result. Now Matoma impressed last season, although he did taper off towards the end of the season. Now that may be because he was injured and he wasn't used to the actual sheer amount of games they were playing. He's by no means nailed in my team. He could easily be March or Pascal Gross. It just depends who impresses me in the pre-season. Now, Julio Enciso is a player that I'm most excited about. He could be an absolute gem this season. He had the best stats out of all the Brighton midfielders towards the end of last season. Granted, it was from a smaller sample size because he didn't play as many games, but he's still impressed. He passes the eye test and he passes the stats test. I estimate he's probably 85% chance that he's nailed this season and he's probably going to start in that number 10 role with McAllister leaving. He's got reasonably low ownership and I expect big things from him this season. He's one of my sort of differentials / not too template picks. Him along with Martinelli. I put a few alternative midfielders up on screen there and as you can see there's just so many viable midfield options this season, so really pick your own poison. As of recording, there's around 13 midfielders with about 10% ownership or more. Now, come game week 1, that'll probably translate to about 1 million people, each owning their own separate midfielder. Now, there's also around 20 other midfielders that you could quite easily make an argument for. It's just an absolutely insane season. There's so many midfield options. Like I said, I put my favourite alternatives on screen now, but there's just too many to choose from. Personally, I don't think it's worth going for Mo Salah this season, just because of the abundance of other cheaper options that provide similar, but granted diminished attacking potential. The money is probably better spent throughout your team. KDB could be a nice spicy differential if he's fit for the start of the season. If you've got the money and can fit him in, and when he's fit, he's nailed for Manchester City, he could really boost your rank. Now Son is a player that could definitely be in my game week 1 team if he impresses me in pre-season. Incredible player, good attacking fixtures from game week 3 onwards, and playing in a more attacking system under Ange Postecoglou with an annoyingly tempting price, he's very hard to ignore. And also James Maddison kind of falls into that same bracket as Son. Again, if they impress in pre-season, could quite easily be my game week 1 team. Now, Chelsea midfielders are players to 100% keep your eye on and have a plan to get some of them in when it comes to game week 3. From game week 3 to game week 8, they have some ridiculously easy fixtures, by far the best fixtures through that period. Sterling, he's so cheap, only comes in at 7 million, and if he starts scoring goals, he'd be one of the first bandwagons of the season. Madueke is someone who could fall under the radar at the start of the season, but could be a huge differential. Now, watching him in the England under-21s, didn't always start games, but when he came off the bench, he looked really good. He passes the eye test. Now, I don't know who he's going to be challenging for that right-hand side of the pitch with him being a left footer at Chelsea, but if he has that spot all to himself at 5.5 million, could be excellent value. He's definitely want to keep an eye on him pre-season and see how many minutes he's getting. The lad's an absolute baller, and in the right system, he definitely has a few goals in him, so you can't really go wrong for his price. Mbeumo seems to be the first bandwagon of the season so far. Yes, he's a good player, but I feel there's probably better options at that 6.5 million price point. The Brentford attack is kind of an unknown at this point with Ivan Toney serving his 7-month ban. I'm just not confident they'll be banging as many goals as people seem to expect that they will. So it's definitely one to monitor in the pre-season. Again, it's a pretty template front two. Obviously the freak of nature has Erling Haaland's in there, and I've also got Mr. XGI himself. Haaland needs no introduction. Burned me last season by not starting with him, and I was constantly playing catch-up from game week 1. He is the first name on everybody's draft for a reason. You're only setting yourself up for failure if you don't go with him. It's too much of a risk. Don't do it. It's like walking into a gunfight without a gun, or arms, or eyes. It's stupid. Don't do it. Just put him in your team. Now Jesus, Mr. XGI, an annoying problem. Price point and fixtures is just really nice, but sometimes the bloke just doesn't know how to put the ball on the back of the net. He's kind of a semi-placeholder in my team, however, I think he probably will be in my game week 1 team regardless. He maybe won't be in it for a long time because I love the handsome devil that's Callum Wilson, and Ollie Watkins also has some nice fixtures too. With only Kane and Haaland being priced above 8 million, it just makes sense to start the season with an £8 million forward, and then you can just adjust and be very flexible from there on out. There's definitely some good alternatives depending on how you want to structure your team. Mitrovic was fixture proof for a little while last season before he started headbutting referees, and Nkunku is a player that I'm seriously considering starting with. He has great fixtures game week 3 onwards, and he could easily start banging in goals for fun. He has insane stats from the Bundesliga, and being at that 7.5 million price tag, and as I mentioned earlier, I've got that 1 million in the bank. Now that would allow me to start with Nkunku and then quite easily move to Reece James and also upgrade one of my 6.5 million mids up to Raheem Sterling later on. As I mentioned before, it's things like that you have to consider when it comes to Chelsea. How are you going to get their players in? And I think this might be my route into that attack. There's also a possibility that Nkunku could be on penalties as well. Now, it'll be one to monitor through pre-season, so just make sure you've got your eyes on him. Alvarez could be great value for 6.5 million for Manchester City if he starts regularly. Now, towards the end of last season, Pep was putting him in the team, but will that say the same for this season? Who knows? It's Pep. Pep Roulette is going to be a massive issue this season. And also, I've already mentioned the fact that they have a competition in Greece between game week 1 and game week 2. Again, it could be difficult to fit any other Manchester City assets in besides Erling Haaland. But if he does start, could be one to keep your eye on for later on the season. Could be absolutely great value. Now, there's a few 6 million forwards that definitely should be in consideration as well. Evan Ferguson, he's a one where he's great when he starts, but when will he start? You know, they have a lot of competition at Brighton now. I think they've got 4 forwards, so he's an avoid for me. Whistler for Brentford, he's definitely going to be their nailed-on number 9 this season with Toney out, at least until January. But as I mentioned earlier, I just don't know if I'm going to trust that Brentford attack. Now, Whistler's definitely capable of scoring goals, but in their first fixtures, Tottenham at home, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, and Bournemouth at home, how many goals do I realistically expect from an unknown quantity that is Whistler? Maybe 2 at the most throughout that. So maybe one you should avoid and maybe look somewhere else. And that somewhere else could be Everton. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is probably the best cheap forward option, coming in at 6 million, and he has a long run of decent to good fixtures. The only problem is, if he breaks a fingernail during pre-season, then he's out for a month. The bloke is just made of glass. strong enough gust of wind, or if his drinking water is the wrong pH level, then he's probably out for 6 weeks. But the bloke does know how to find the back of the net, and if he's on form, he can bang in goals for fun, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on. So let's talk about captaincy. Now, the keener-eyed amongst you have probably already dropped the comment that I am an absolute idiot and don't know what I'm talking about, because Erling Haaland currently has the vice-captain's armband. My captain in game week 1 is probably going to be Bukayo Saka, and that's because I believe he has the better fixture. Like I mentioned earlier, Arsenal just seem to bang in goals for fun when they're at home, when they're at the Emirates. And if we take data based off last season, Nottingham Forest were the worst away team and conceded the most goals away from home. So for me, that just sounds like a winning scenario. And also Erling Haaland, quote unquote, struggled away from home last season. Now, when I mean struggled, I mean he only scored 1 goal when he was away in most games. Now, that did happen only against the better teams, and against the weaker teams, he did something manage to get 2. So, yeah, I'm kind of justifying it like that. Now, I might be completely wrong. I just honestly think there's probably a 19-pointer or more there for Saka in game week 1. I can entirely see 3 attacking returns. Either that be 2 goals and an assist, a goal and 2 assists. I think he'll easily get 3 bonus points that game. In Haaland, I'll probably only think he's going to score 2 goals. I know it sounds mental not captaining Erling Haaland when you think he's going to get a brace, but I think he might only get 2 to 3 bonus in that game, so possibly on for 14 or 15 pointer. So I'm rather trusting my gut on this one over the data. So if it doesn't work, feel free to call me an absolute melon after the game week 1 results are finally in. But I feel it's one of those high risk, high reward strategies. Trusting my gut. Hopefully I can get a nice jump on the ranks with having this template team. I feel risks like that are sometimes necessary, but please just do not follow what I'm doing when it comes to Saka captain. Just keep it simple, stupid. Everyone else, Captain Erling Haaland, he's probably going to be at 199.99% effective ownership, and I'm probably the only idiot who doesn't want to captain Erling Haaland away to Burnley, who have just been promoted. So to wrap things up, I'm pretty certain I'll have around 8 of these 11 players in my game week 1 team. Pickford and Shaw could quite easily change to Onana and Reece James once that Onana transfer is confirmed to Man United. He's a ball-playing defender and he likes to spray passes around from the back and has a rather good pass completion percentage. So in those low-scoring games, those 0-0 games, he could be a bonus point machine. So definitely want to keep an eye on. And Reece James / Ben Chilwell, same price, Chelsea fullbacks. Definitely want to look at how to get those guys in for game week 3. Now, if Chelsea do impress during pre-season and Nkunku starts banging goals, I could quite easily start with Nkunku ahead of Gabriel Jesus. I'm planning to be at least doubled, if not tripled up on Chelsea for their Luton at home fixture in game week 3. It just all depends on what route I want to start with. I'll have a list of my early transfer targets within a few weeks. Again, just trying to look at that pre-season data and see if it's anybody that I like. And I'll make sure to share them with you guys as well. I would highly recommend you guys do exactly the same thing. Again, just have a list of early transfers that you can take going forwards. Along with that, I'll also have some contingency plans for if any of my players get injured. Now, especially if you're bringing in Reece James, you're going to want a contingency plan to get him out because he probably will be injured as soon as you bring him in. So, yeah. The bloke's just one of those people who are made of glass. He's like a flash in a pan. He's brilliant for a few seconds, but as soon as everyone else, as soon as the crowd jumps on him, then he goes and just breaks a leg and he's out for about 7 weeks. I would also recommend that you guys trust the team that you start game week 1 with and don't just gut it on game week 2 because you didn't have a particularly good game week 1. You guys picked this team for a reason. You put a lot of effort into it. You should trust it. Have some faith that your picks are going to pay off. I can't stress enough how powerful it will be to have 2 free transfers in going to game week 3 when you have that Chelsea fixture swing. It'd also be good if around this point you could try and figure out when you're going to use your chips. Now I know it's a little bit early to potentially plan your free hit chip. Obviously we don't know what cup runs, who's going to go deep or anything like that. And again, it might be a little bit too early to plan a bench boost, but it's early enough to plan when you're going to wildcard. And I think like most seasons, it's probably going to be around the game week 6 to 9. It's going to be the best place to wildcard. So that's what I'm thinking ahead of game week 1. Now, if you think I'm an absolute divvy, let us know in the comments below, but hopefully you can appreciate how I've tried to explain things, my logic going forward. So like I say, just let me know your thoughts in the comment below. And if you like what you're seeing, you want to see more content, please drop us a like, drop us a sub. Like I say, a brand new channel, want to pump out as much content as I can this season. If you guys like it, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. My name's Cal, and I'm signing out.